a couple other quick notes. Instead of kind of, it has been our tradition in this group is to have everybody introduce themselves off the top. What I'm going to suggest is that when you have a question, introduce yourself. So we're going to be interactive here, and we want to obviously make sure Bobby knows who's asking the question and whatnot. So I thought that might be a way to sort of be a little more efficient. So just, I think preface any question with your name and organization, just a quick snapshot on what you do, and then we'll roll on from there. So our topic today, and thank you, Bobby Carlton, for being with us. Our topic is about driving event attendance. And just kind of what I've been doing over the last couple of years has led me to get to know Bobby pretty well. And of all the events, of all the sort of organizers that I've seen around the country, Bobby, hands down, does the best job of getting people in the room. She consistently sells out. She's developed a really cool system for getting people in the room. And of course, then my phone goes off. Should I take it? So thanks, Rick. I appreciate it. Rick's going to take it for me. So what I want to do really, and the format we're going to go in, I've got some questions to get things going, and then we'll open it up to your questions and folks that are virtual. To introduce Bobby just a little bit better. So she runs an organization called Innovation Nights. It started as, correct me if I'm wrong, it started as Mass Innovation Nights, and then you created that sort of parent organization. Is that right, Bobby?
Yep.
And that was 6 or 7 years ago now?
7 years ago.
7 years ago. So monthly events, so you do the math to figure out how many events that is.
Tonight is 88.
Not that you're counting or anything, yeah.
Not that we're counting.
And MIN or pound MIN or hashtag MIN 88 is your current version.
That'll be the hashtag for tonight.
And so they now are in a few different locations, and Bobby will tell us a little bit about that. She also runs a PR and marketing firm, and has a whole host of clients who rely on her expertise in terms of getting the word out and getting butts in their own seats, I suppose, in a variety of ways, and helping them build community. So what I'd like to do is, first, Bobby, is really tell us a little bit more about Innovation Nights, and again, for those that are here in the room, we'll want to keep pretty quiet. I'll keep quiet so that we can hear Bobby. But give us a little bit more of your story.
Sure. So we started Mass Innovation Nights in 2009, and it was never intended to be this crazy ongoing series. I thought I'd do it once, and that would be the end of it. It was an experiment in how social media can drive marketing action. And I started out by tweeting, hey, I'm going to throw a product launch party. And within about 3 days, we had 10 companies signed up to launch new products, including IBM, which was not what I had thought would be coming through the door, that's for sure. And we had over 200 people attend that first event. The first event was described as a collective product launch party and networking event. We held it at the Charles River Museum of Industry and Innovation in Waltham, and it was primarily intended to make up for the fact I'd been a bad board member for many years while I was working with a startup. So it was driving foot traffic for the museum. It was an experiment in how social media communities could help support local entrepreneurs. And it worked out really well. And as everyone walked out the door, they said, okay, see you next month. And so I had 10 more companies already lined up, ready to go. And as I said, tonight will be our 88th event. We've launched almost 900 new products in the last 7 years. And those products have collectively gotten $1.2 billion in funding.
Wow. That's a heck of a measure, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
we need to update our numbers too. So
I'm sorry.
It's going to go up. We need to update our numbers, so that's going to go up.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations first and foremost. And so it all sort of sounds like it started by accident, but snowballed fairly quickly. When did you sort of realize it was going to have some legs?
The first event we had just about 200 attendees. The second event we had 350. The fourth event, we were rapidly outgrowing the museum's capacity. So that was a little bit of an indicator. The following on social media also leapfrogged very quickly. And I think a lot of it was driven by the excitement of the attendees themselves. Everybody, was thrilled. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Terrific event. And then they would come back. They would come back and they would bring somebody. So that was a big indicator. If you can do any event, I think, once, and everyone's like, oh, that's very nice. But if they keep coming back, you've got a winner.
That's awesome. So actually, I just had a thought. What I'm going to do is since we're not projecting, I'm going to turn my laptop around and actually take another seat here so you can see more people. So we're a little,
Okay.
the speakers will be facing everybody else as well, which will probably help some.
Are you on max volume?
I am on max volume. I'm on 11. Absolutely. Okay, so you're not looking at a screen. We'll point it this way. Oh, that's better. There we are. Okay, now at least you can see a few, and the speakers are more pointed to everybody else. So, so let's see here. Go to my list of handy-dandy questions. So, you tell us a little bit about your community building. You've built. You started with 200, then 300, then 400. Then you had to go to a new facility. What was it that sort of caused that kind of interest? Because that's even in a vibrant ecosystem like Boston, and sort of 128 belt. That's remarkable. So how did you do that?
So we started off, I actually had it was a sandbox. I mean, the idea behind Innovation Nights was to allow me to play around with social media and see what I could do with it. And the first event, I actually kind of put the hand out and said no to the Boston Globe doing a feature on it before the event, because I wanted to keep it as a test, a true test. Could I tweet and get people to perform some action? So I actually didn't speak to anyone in person. I didn't do a press release. I didn't do any of the normal marketing activity. I wanted to see if just social media could drive attendance, and it did. There was a feature story about Mass Innovation Nights after that first event. We had a feature in the Boston Globe. We had a feature in the local Waltham paper. I think Boston Business Journal did a story as well. And that was great to cement the standing of the event. But the first event was driven entirely by social media. And what we've done over time is we've created what I call the self-perpetuating marketing model. Every time we do an event, it creates such visibility on its own that it drives attendance and interest in the upcoming events. So people will see this explosion of social media activity the night of the event itself, and then they'll say, oh, I want to get me some of that. And you get a group of signups that happen to be exhibitors, and you get attendees going, well, I missed last month, now I'm going to sign up for this month. But we have a combination of marketing that we do around every single event. Obviously, the social media. There's also a weekly newsletter that now goes out to about 14,000 people. And we also are, we go to other people's events. I spend a lot of my time making appearances other places. And we also have created a way for all of the companies involved to get it more involved. So if you're an exhibitor at Mass Innovation Nights, you're running around to all of your friends and saying, go vote for me on this website. Because if you vote for me and I get the most votes, I will get to do one of the 4 or 5 minute presentations. So if you've got 10 companies, each running around to all of their friends saying, go vote for me, well, that drives some interest right there. And I think about half of our monthly attendance and website traffic is driven by the companies themselves. So it's back to that collective.
So just so it's clear, because people may not have totally heard the model earlier on, Bobby gave a little bit more info that kind of led to this. So at each of her events, there are 10 exhibitors, and those are people who apply to become exhibitors, and you have a sort of an ongoing list of potential exhibitors.
Yeah.
And so, like roughly 30 days before the event, you select the exhibitors. And
we actually do that now about 2 months ahead of the event because we start promoting each event as soon as the previous event is done.
right.
So Mass Innovation Nights 88 is tonight, and tomorrow we do what we call swapping out the website. We take the 88 folks off and we put up 89. And so that will all change tomorrow. And then the first newsletter for Mass Innovation Nights number 89 will go out on Monday.
Right. So you're the September Mass Innovation Nights 10 are being selected and notified. And so that from that 10, 4 are selected. So all 10 get to exhibit, 4 are selected to give 5-minute pitches. And the who gets to pitch is totally crowdsourced. So it's up to each of the 10 to promote votes on the Mass Innovation website in order to get selected to be one of the pitchers. So in essence, and again, I haven't seen anyone else doing this. I think it's a brilliant way to really, and you say almost double your marketing reach, and you're directly tying attendance to that, but you're getting the people who can benefit the most by the event to have it.
And what it does is it drives our attendance at the event. It also drives website traffic and the interest in the products themselves. So I may go to you and say, Bill, go vote for me because I need to present and I need to be one of the featured companies. You go and vote and you go, oh, look, there's this other interesting product over here.
Mm-hmm.
And hey, maybe I'll go to this event. It isn't just about the event. It's about the visibility for the products overall.
Yeah.
And while you may be my friend, you might not be the best customer for my product, but you might be a customer for one of the other 9 products.
It totally makes sense. Yeah.
I have a question.
Okay, a question. I'm going to spin my laptop. There we go.
Dizzy. Hi. The voting for the companies to exhibit, is that real time?
It's on the website. So the minute the company products, the companies each submit their product information. It builds their own product page on the Innovation Nights website. When their event goes live, a voting button goes live next to their product. And people vote on the website leading up to about noon the day before. And then we close down the voting and we let the 4 presenters know, hey, you won, you're presenting tomorrow night.
Yep. You have 24 hours to prepare your pitch.
Yeah. We always tell them, don't wait to find out that you're presenting. Be prepared beforehand. You should have
Absolutely.
a pitch anyway. But we also have voting that's live at the event itself. And this is actually another aspect of driving attendance at the event. Voting at the event for the favorite product at the event only happens between 6 and 7. So that encourages people to get there on time.
Okay. Do you have any dropouts from those 10 that applied to pitch if they realize?
If they don't get to pitch?
Right.
We occasionally do, but we have such a long waiting list to exhibit at the event that when we confirm the companies, we tell them, listen, you had to wait and there are people waiting. If you cannot guarantee that your company will be at the event, you're not getting in the door. And there's lots of dire warnings. And, and you are dead to me if you don't show up.
Okay. No, it's good. It's a good strategy. Thank you.
Yeah, we confirm and we tell people. And we've had, every once in a while, there's somebody who's a poor sport and a sore loser who decides it's not worth their time to show up. And quite frankly, I rarely hear from those companies again. I figure if they are so short-sighted, they're probably not going to be that successful anyway.
All right. Thank you.
I have a question. Yeah, we have another question.
It's a great question. A lot of people don't think about that. And so Really good question.
Say that again, Bobby.
It's a good question. A lot of people don't think about that particular aspect of the winners and losers of the voting. And one thing that I do about the losers is I say, you should be grateful to the company that won because they drove more eyeballs to your product page than you drove to theirs.
That's
That's a good point.
very good
So,
point.
excuse me.
Hang on a second. You didn't introduce yourself, so we want to make sure.
So my name is Cindy Lang. I work for the Connecticut Technology Council and Crossroads Venture Group. And Crossroads Venture Group does an event very much like this, a monthly pitching event. And getting companies to attend and, getting applications, qualified companies, interested parties, all there is a big part of what I do. The voting, when I asked a question about voting being open, so it's not real time. You can't see it on the website as you're voting. You can't see where you are, which I think is a great idea. Are VCs allowed to vote? And
Anybody's allowed to vote. Everybody's allowed to vote. And what it does is if you go to the website, voting's closed right now because the event's tonight. But you can see the votes that were garnered by each company. What we have is a little button and it says click, I love it. There's some aspects of voting that are really problematic for a lot of events like this. You get the people who cheat. All of a sudden you've got, a whole bunch of website traffic from somewhere in Russia or India. So what we do is we limit the votes to 1 per IP address, which brings its own host of issues because, for example, if you're working in a co-working space and you're all on the same Wi-Fi, you're probably all represented as the same IP address. So in that case, I will tell people go and vote at home. We didn't want to make people have to register for the site in order to vote because a lot of our products are consumer products and the audience may not be as tech savvy as somebody who is very accustomed to signing up for a website. So we wanted people to be able to freely vote. So we didn't go the route of making them sign up, or some voting makes you have a Facebook page or makes you have a Twitter handle. So there's all different ways to handle voting. Voting itself is a very interesting problem to solve.
Makes sense.
Thank you.
John, you had a question, and introduce yourself. Or Joe, and you had a question.
Hi, Bobby. Joe Weir. I'm a deep entrepreneur and mentor. So if companies are one of the 10 selected, but not one of the 4 to pitch, can they try to pitch in a subsequent meeting? How does that work?
So everybody, all the 10 companies are actually at the event. What they do is they have tabletop demos. And the tabletop demos run from 6 until 7. The event itself, in terms of the pitching aspect, we actually try and keep that relatively small and limited. Each company is only pitching for 5 minutes, so there's 4 pitches. And really the focus is on those tabletop demos. And people get the opportunity to pitch basically all night long, one-on-one. Most of the companies that are pitching who are at the event, they say that they never stop talking all night long.
Yeah, having been to a couple of Bobby's events, I can tell you that the people at the tables get tons of traffic. They're busy, as she said, all night.
Just to follow up,
Yeah.
somebody, one meeting is one of the 10 tabletop demos. Did they ever get to have a tabletop demo again, subsequent meeting?
They'd have to come up with a new product.
Okay.
We have had companies that have come multiple times, but they've come multiple times with multiple products. And I mean, we're pretty loose about things. If somebody wants to come back, maybe their product company is pivoted and the product is very different, they can come back. They just have to wait in line like everybody else.
Cool. And Brenda, you had a question
Hi,
or
Bobby.
a
Brenda
thought?
Lewis, Principal of Transactions Marketing, Inc. We're a venture manager, 35 years, launched 20 tech businesses, primarily mobile. But we're about to start an enterprise tech accelerator in Stanford, and it's strictly early stage. So my question to you is, what kind of businesses do you have pitching? I mean, you mentioned they'd raised $1 $0.2 million, and
Billion.
then a lot of them billion, and then a lot of them were consumer businesses. What is your range?
Products have ranged all over the place. As you can imagine, with about 900 alumni, there's a pretty broad swath of the startups in Boston area that have actually come through Innovation Nights. I usually describe it as everything from organic whoopie pies to underwater dog treadmills to iPhone apps, enterprise software, medical devices. You name it, we've probably helped launch it. And by the way, the dogs are not underwater, the treadmill is.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
The dogs are not underwater, but the treadmill is.
Oh,
The underwater dog treadmill was probably one of my favorite products. Somebody told me that that's what their business was, and I'm like, you have to come to Innovation Night. I just have to see this. It's a therapeutic device for veterinary offices. And the dogs are in a tank, and there's a treadmill that the water helps support the dog's weight, so they can walk and exercise without putting too much weight on an injured limb. But we sometimes have theme events. Our August event is usually what we call the Mass Innovation Nights foodie event. All the products are food or food related. But we did a civic tech event at Google earlier this year. We had a cyber technology event with MITRE earlier this year as well. So often the products are kind of a crazy mix of everything. You'll get a consumer product next to an enterprise software product next to something else entirely. And when you have that mix, you also end up with a mix in terms of the audience. And this is one of the keys in terms of driving audience attendance. There's this fine balance that you have to have between where we've got a targeted, focused event, and we've got a targeted, focused event that only 6 people are going to be interested in. So having the mix of products will often provide a much larger audience than having something very targeted.
I suppose then as well, you get collisions that you didn't expect. You get the sort of serendipitous moments that are pretty cool as well. I think, Rick, did you have...
One aspect of that is I find that when you get people that are primarily focused on digital products sitting next to people with a physical product, there's always a conversation about everything from materials costs to the cost of warehouses. Digital inventory always ends up coming up. And if you're running a company based entirely on a digital product, I think sometimes there's a bit of an education that happens when you're talking to someone who has to ship something out from their warehouse.
For sure.
Hey, Bobby, so you also had a company that was on Shark Tank recently, right? That came.
We had 2 of them actually in one night. We've had a couple of Shark Tank companies. There was a corn chip company from a few years ago. PMS Bites was on just recently, as was Pavlog. So those are all. We had, I want to say 8 or 9 Shark Tank companies.
Wow.
I know you and Bobby know each other, but maybe not everybody knows you. If you want to make sure you introduce yourself, Rick.
Yeah, Britt Kohlmeyer, Connecticut Entrepreneurs Meetup. What am I doing?
Wow! Right. You jump ship. Cool. Yeah. So you've had a lot of Shark Tank companies. That's great, Bobby.
Yeah, it's at first when Shark Tank was getting going, they were taking a percentage of the companies to pitch, and visibility on Shark Tank is great for your company. But at the same time, I think a lot of people were a little nervous about giving up 6% of the company for a one-shot deal on national television where you might not be portrayed particularly positively. So in recent years, I think they've stopped doing that. They've stopped taking a percentage of the company right up front, and it all comes down to how much of the company you are giving away for the investment. So there may be less of a hurdle lately.
Makes sense. So are there any times, Bobby, when the sort of formula doesn't work, when you kind of have to drop back 10 and go a different direction?
Yeah, I mean, anytime it snows or rains.
Right.
Now, we move around. Every Mass Innovation Nights is held in a different location. Our model is sponsorship, primarily by large companies. This event that we're doing tonight is being hosted and sponsored by Log Me In. Last month, where were we last month? Oh my gosh. I'm planning ahead, September, October, November. So it's like, where were we last month? But we've recently been with Google. Last month we were with Bullhorn. And they host the events in their locations. It's a way to bring in foot traffic. It's a way to bring in potential employees. Our events are great for recruiting, and we have a lot of data. For example, we know that about 9.4% of our attendees are job seekers. So that is really attractive to someone in HR who is looking to bring people in and show off their beautiful location. And look, you could work. Imagine yourself working here. So that's why the big companies will often sponsor us. But that means that we move around every month. We're in a different space. So sometimes we're in downtown Boston. Sometimes we're out on 128. We've gone out as far as 495, which is a good ways from Boston. I mean, if you're talking about Boston and the entrepreneurs and the startup culture, anything beyond 128 and 495 is like you're falling off the edge of the world.
Well, and not only that, it's not even just distance, it's traffic.
It's traffic. But then again, in downtown Boston, it's, $40 to park your car.
Right.
So, that can be really a pain for some of the folks that have been with us a long time. We started out on 128, and so a lot of our early attendees and regular visitors are people from the suburbs, and they cannot stand going into Boston. And they will tell me, I'm not coming into Boston. When is your next event on 128? Mm-hmm. So different events have different expectations in terms of attendance. Our foodie event is often limited just by the size of the building we can find it in. Last August, we did it in the Lord Hobo warehouse, which was still at that point, they were still relatively young and early. And so the warehouse was half empty. And it was like, that's great. We were able to have 17 products launching that night. We had plenty of room, but we still had, 500 attendees at it.
That's all.
And, we've had some events where we kind of tamp down the promotion a little bit, and we will limit the promotion. Our Google event last year was over 600 attendees. And this year, Google came back and said, we love it. We love your event. We cannot have 600 people here again. So we need you to limit it to 200 people. Right. So we turn down the dial on some of our promotion, and we tell people, if you didn't RSVP, you can't come. And I hate doing that.
Right.
Because our entire goal is visibility for the entrepreneurs. Right. It's like, that's our goal. And every person I'm turning away at the door is somebody who could have tweeted or blogged or posted a picture of a new product, or maybe a video, or they did a product review somewhere. So if I have to limit the attendees, I'm limiting the promotion for the companies that are launching with us. And I don't like doing that.
Right. Yeah, no, it makes sense. Cindy Lang has another question.
I'm sorry, Rick answered it for me. I just wanted to know if there was a charge to attend.
Nope.
So as you said, the revenue model is sponsors, and is there any other component of revenue?
We do. So we have a newsletter that goes out every week, about 14,000 people. We'll occasionally sell ads on it. We also have some affiliate revenue occasionally, but for the most part, our entire budget is provided by the large companies that sponsor. So we have 12 events a year, and a large company will sponsor each one of those events, and that's pretty much our budget. Mass Innovation Nights was not created as a money-making proposition. What it does is it's a new business funnel for my Carlton PR marketing, PR and marketing business. Now, if it was entirely that, it would have died off long ago. That seems too self-serving. And so there's a very careful balance that I have to run in terms of promoting my other business. Sometimes I err a little too much on the non-promotional side, and I'll talk to some entrepreneur who's like, yeah, I just hired a PR firm. I'm like, oh, I'm bummed you didn't come to me. What? You do PR? Like, great.
That's working well.
Yeah, that's working well.
And just so everybody knows, you don't really see anything about Bobby's business in the Mass Innovation Nights or Innovation Nights promotion. So it's very subtle and certainly I think really professional.
Yeah, if I promoted Carlton PR marketing at every event, if I did it in every newsletter, I don't think it would have the same appeal to people. I get other PR firms that bring products in to launch with me, and they never feel like I'm going to be raiding their client base. And I don't want them to. I want this to be a community event. The more people who are at it, the stronger it is for everyone.
Right. Absolutely. Cool. Yeah.
Hi, Kim Kelly with Cure. Just one question. So Angelique's here and she's doing some live tweets right now. Just, building social media and attendance.
I can't quite hear.
Can you speak up?
So our intern's here, Angelique, she's doing some live social media. So make sure we have the hashtags. Was it mass? What was it?
So tonight's event is hashtag MIN88 for Mass Innovation Nights 88.
Mm-hmm.
Min 88.
And do you have one built for these?
For these, no, you could make one and let us know what it is. No.
I'll just read it.
Yeah, there you go. You're in charge.
All right, thanks.
Absolutely. So that, Kim, do you want to tell us a little bit about, we're in a brand new facility that Cure, the biotech incubator in Connecticut, has just opened, and we're some of the first footprints in the facility, I would guess, today. So do you want to tell us just a quick 30-second on that?
Sure. So we just opened in June, and what we are here for is to create jobs and retain technology in Connecticut. We have 12 laboratories for different types of companies. Science is a broad umbrella, I guess you could say. And we also have 18 offices and a lot of co-working space and conference rooms like this one that companies can come and use. Tenants, obviously, or members can use these as well. And Cure also does a lot of programming. So we have a large event space for 100 people as well. Actually, in 2 days, we're partnering with CBG, and having one of these pitch and networking and investor panel events. So we do a lot of collaborative events with other not-for-profits within the state. And we're here ready for people to start coming in.
That's great. Yeah, we're trying to get Connecticut Innovation Nights up and running. I've been talking with a couple of people. One's a young woman who runs a startup Hartford, I guess, and talked with another guy who is in New Haven. And I was also recently down in Stamford, actually, visiting the refineries demo day. So I'd like to see Innovation Night spread out throughout Connecticut as well. I have family in New Haven, so I have a personal interest. I have to get down to Pepe's regularly.
Yeah, exactly. You got to have a Pepe's run. Well, let us know when you're coming to town, and also let us know what we can do to help you. So it looks like, so Kelly is asking, what information do you capture on the voter?
We actually don't capture any on the voters itself. They can come in and click, and then we do capture the IP address just for comparison to make sure that they're not voting, multiple times, sitting there clicking the button. We do collect information on our RSVPs, And I'd say a good percentage of people come to the events, actually fill out the RSVP form. One of the things about Innovation Nights is we are so social media focused that we have a listing on the website for each event. People have the choice of having their RSVP be a public RSVP or a private RSVP. About 60% of the people have public RSVPs, so they appear on our attendee list. So if you go back to our website and you click on events, you can look at any of the previous events. You'll actually see about half of the people in the RSVP list. So you can click on attendees and take a look at it. Each of those people has their name, their title, their company, and their Twitter handle. So it makes it easy for the companies to kind of know and engage with people who are coming to their event. And we also use something called Gaggle Amp, which is a social media amplification tool. And we have about 400 people who are signed up to participate in our Gaggle, which means that they kind of take and run with any messages that we give them. So every month, each of the companies that's launching with us gets to be a subject of the Gaggle for a day or two. That's usually the point where people who haven't paid attention come running back to me and go, "Oh my God, something's wrong. There's like 400, tweets about me." Yeah. We did that. It's good.
Just to clarify, that's called Gaggle Camp.
Gaggle Amp,
Oh,
as an amplification.
Got it. Very cool.
It's a great tool.
Let me encourage anyone that's virtual, if you want to come on screen and ask a question, please do. All you have to do is hit the call-in button there, and you'll join us on screen. I'm really aiming for sort of.
I think it's like open. I think it's called Open Seat. Is that how it works?
Maybe Open Seat or call-in. It's the only thing you can really click on in the main body of the screen. But we really want the screen to look like the Brady Bunch. I think that would be wonderful. So
I think it only does 4.
it only does. Well, it's a small Brady Bunch. That's all. So in the event where you had said, in sort of moments where there are acts of God, rain, snow, locusts, anything like that, sometimes you go to a plan B. Is there sort of a plan B in terms of what you do to,
If nobody shows up?
Well, I suppose not much you can do if nobody shows up. I suppose if registrations are behind expectation.
Yeah. So we do have, as I said, various things at our disposal. We have everything from partnerships with other organizations. We'll go out to one of those organizations. I have to admit, we haven't had to do this in so many years. I have to kind of think through what is it we did. Nowadays, our biggest issue is actually we sell out more often, and we'll have limitations on space. So I can only have 200 people in the room. So I have to shut down the RSVPs, which makes nobody happy. We'll go out to different organizations. I also had what would I do if, people RSVP and then they don't come. We had a few years ago a situation where there was an absolute monsoon that happened just around the time of rush hour, and people were stranded everywhere. People who have come to probably 75 out of 80 Mass Innovation Nights at the time were turning around and going home because they couldn't get anywhere. There was just this absolute deluge of water. And the good news for us is that night, I think we had a capacity of 400. We had 900 RSVPs, and we only had about 400 people show up. And I was like, oh, thank God there was a thunder, there was this massive storm.
It actually worked out.
What's that?
It actually worked out. Yeah,
It worked out fine because I was in an absolute panic. What are we going to do with all these people? But if it had happened that we only had 400 people and 400 people had turned around and gone home, what was I going to do? And I've thought about this. And number one, I've always told the exhibitors the same thing. To all the outside appearances, appearances are everything. So if you have a social media driven event like ours, if all of the exhibitors showed up and tweeted about each other, we wouldn't even need guests. So, there's a way to drive social media visibility, which is what our goal is. You have to think about what our goals are, and social media visibility is our goal. We're driving inbound links. We're driving social media engagement. We're driving images and video. So we could have all of the exhibitors engage with each other, and forget about the guests. Or there's a way for me, if there's a very, very small number of attendees, not that I've ever had this happen, but if there were only a very small number, we could do the guided tour. Let's go from table to table as a group. Let's have each exhibitor give us their pitch. Let's, all 10 attendees or whatever, let's let them, talk to us individually, and we do something with it.
Sure.
So I think there's, a change in format that would be necessitated by that type of event happening.
That makes sense.
You can always also make those rooms smaller. It's like you set up a smaller number of chairs at the presentations, you move the tables around a little bit. There's a lot of maneuvering that can happen when an event attendance is not what you think it's going to be.
That makes sense. So Rick has a question, and this will be our last from the floor. So let me see if I can straighten out the camera here. There you go. Now you can see Rick.
Hey, Bobby, what's your attendance rate versus sign up? And do you find that it's seasonal?
Yes, it's definitely seasonal. It's interesting. The first event that we had an RSVP of, I want to say it was like 211. And the way that we count attendance is we actually count the backs of the stick-on name tags. So we've tried the clicker at the door and everything like that. The thing that gets us closest is just saving and counting the backs of the stick-on name tags. And that first event, I think we had like 211 people with a 211 RSVP list. And I went through the list, and there were people who attended who were not on the list, and there were people who were on the list who didn't attend. And it kind of evened out. And that pattern continued for almost the first year, where I call it 100% attendance. Obviously, 7 years later, it's very different. There's a lot of other events and such in town. It's not like it was 7 years ago. We get somewhere between 65 and 75% attendance.
That's really good. Yeah.
Our attendance percentage actually goes up when we have to shut down the RSVPs. Mm-hmm. And generally, I'm planning on, 65% attendance. And so if I've got 200 spaces for people, and, we're up over 400, 450, I've got to shut down the RSVPs. If that's the case, we almost always end up with 75 to 80% attendance, because that is a hot event. And so it's very counterproductive to me to shut down the RSVPs.
For sure. Okay, so a final question for you, Bobby. If you had one thing, and again, our sort of topic is about driving attendance, and if you had one thing you wanted to leave us with in terms of, sort of the key variable to building community and driving event attendance, what would that be?
I think everyone has to remember that the event isn't for you, and it's for the attendees. And I think one of the reasons that we've done so well with Mass Innovation Nights is we are giving people what they want. We're giving bloggers and content creators access to new content. We're giving people who are looking for new business the potential to get new business. There's always 10 new companies launching new products, and that's the point where they need a lot of stuff. We're giving the recruiters what they want. We're giving the corporate attendees what they want. We're giving everybody a way to win. And we're also not sitting them in chairs and making them sit and listen. You know, people want to engage with other people. They don't want to just sit there and listen. So a lot of events like these, the pitch nights, are hours and hours of people sitting and listening. They're not doing anything. And so I think that's one of the reasons that our event has been so popular over time, is we're not going to make you sit and listen for hours on end. We try and keep our actual programming to 30 to 35 minutes, no more, no less.
Yeah, actually, I would say another way your events are rare, and I appreciate it, is you start and end on time, which is, I think you can get away with not being timely once, and then you start losing people. They just won't come if you go over time very often.
Yeah, I have to kick people out a lot of times, and that's part of the commitment we make to our hosts. You know, you're not going to be standing there at 10 o'clock at night trying to shoo people out the door. I mean, I have to often physically run around and tell people, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
Right.
It's, it's time to go off. And that's one of the things we've done, is we have an after party at a nearby bar, and, you're on your own. You got to buy your own drinks and supper and whatever. Go there. If you want to keep talking while you're walking out the door.
Right. That's awesome. So we've got a couple of bits of business that'll take 3 or 4 minutes max. Do you want to hang with us?
Sure.
And then we'll say thank you. Okay. So I'll face this way. Sorry. So we've got a couple of things. So our next meeting is coming up on August 2nd. It's actually just 3 weeks out. It's Tuesday, August 2nd. It's going to be actually where Rick is now working at CT Innovations in Rocky Hill. Apparently he's changed roles. And our guest is actually a friend of Bobby and mine, Jess Knox from Maine Accelerates Growth. He's going to be helping us kind of walk through what he does to engage and enroll co-conspirators. So how does he get his community, how does he get the leaders in his community activated to participate in the big vision? And so that should be a lot of fun. Some of you may have met Jess at some point. He's like Bobby, highly dynamic and a lot of fun, and very much a leader in building community. Along the idea of that topic of engaging and enrolling co-conspirators, I have 2 ways that you can be a co-conspirator. So we actually are just working on a program with tech.co, Tech.co. And they're going to create a Connecticut page on tech.co, and we can essentially funnel content to them. So if you're interested if you've got content, I know CTC and CBG and Crossroads Venture Group, you guys have tons of content. I'm sure Cure's got great content, but if you're interested in content, social media gal, then please volunteer. We'd love to have your help on this. And so all you need to do is just let me know, and we're going to be forming a small team to sort of do that. But we can, essentially the way it's going to work is we'll funnel them content. They have got some editors that will do some editing, filter out any self-promotional stuff, and then it'll go up on this Connecticut page. So it'll be a way that we can really amplify what we're doing, and it will also promote the calendar. So it will help get our statewide calendar out to more eyeballs. The other place where you could be a co-conspirator is we are these meetings right now that we've done a survey, and that's what's created the content to date. But I could use more help on that, and both in everything from determining if this format's working, if we need to shake it up a little bit. I think there should be some rotation in terms of our format. But if you're interested in being a part of that discussion and helping put together these meetings, that would be a really great area as well. So please volunteer, be a co-conspirator, be a pirate. It's all a lot of fun, and we don't get in any trouble, so it's good for the most part. But that's what we have today. Again, give any feedback to me on the format. I'm sure there are things we can and should edit, and we certainly will. But I can't thank you enough for being with us, Bobby. It was great. Your wisdom is awesome, and Let's, while we're here, we'll give you a round of applause. Just so you can see, she's bowing and taking a curtsy. And you're actually getting all sorts of applause online too, which is awesome.
From Kelly. Oh, thanks, Kelly.
Good luck with your event tonight, number 88. Have a lot of fun with that, and we'll look to see great things from you. And please let us know what we can do to help you get to Connecticut.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, have fun.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Bye.